The day Jungkook's military discharge was announced, fans globally celebrated. But what happened just 48 hours after stunned even the most loyal army? Without warning, his song 7, a track originally released over a year ago, skyrocketed back to the top of Spotify's US Daily Top Songs chart, overtaking artists like Drake, Billie Eilish, and even Taylor Swift. You read that correctly. A Korean soloist fresh out of the army just surpassed the most dominant names in American pop music, and did it with a song that wasn't even new. Oh, how did this happen? The answer lies not just in numbers, but in emotion, strategy, and timing. The fans never left. The anticipation never stopped simmering. And when Jungkook stepped back into the light, the wave of love that came crashing down across the world turned into a tsunami in the United States. That's not exaggeration. That's data. Millions of streams poured in overnight. Spotify servers were overwhelmed. Twitter, now X, trended hashtag Jungkook made history for 2 straight days. Billboard insiders called it return unlike anything they've seen from a global solo artist, let alone a non-Western one. But that was just the beginning. Within hours, news broke that Jungkook had just become the first Asian solo artist in history to remain on the Billboard Global Excl. US chart for over 100 consecutive weeks. Let that sink in. 100 weeks. That's nearly 2 years of uninterrupted presence. Not as part of BTS. Not backed by a global comeback, but as a solo artist standing on his own name. This is something no other artist from Asia has done before, and here's the part that may give you chills. When reporters tried to reach Jungkook for comment, he gave a brief, quiet statement through HYB. Just 6 words. I missed everyone. I'm thankful. That's it. No fanfare. No dramatic speech. Just a humble acknowledgement that made fans around the world cry, post, and stream even more. But now the question that has everyone guessing, what exactly is Jungkook planning? Because this explosion, this massive return in the US, it doesn't seem like an accident. It feels like the beginning of something far bigger. A new era. A new standard. And if the rumors are true, Jungkook isn't done making history. Far from it. Some insiders suggest a full solo world tour is already being planned, possibly starting in Los Angeles or New York. Others speculate a surprise performance at a major US awards show is imminent. And if you follow the signs, you'll find breadcrumbs, recent studio activity, renewed Spotify promotions, cryptic messages from big hit staffers hinting that he's preparing something that will shock everyone. So the question now isn't if Jungkook is going to dominate the American music scene. It's how far he'll go, and what new ceiling he'll break next. Music analysts are calling this the Jungkook wave, an unexpected storm of influence, emotion, and mass fandom movement that's reshaping the way the West sees K-pop soloists. But let's be honest, this isn't just about K-pop anymore. This is about global music, about voices that were once sidelined now leading charts and headlines. Jungkook didn't just make a comeback. He opened a door. And here's the final twist no one expected. While the world celebrates, while media scrambles to adjust their narratives, Jungkook has remained quiet, focused, almost invisible, like the calm eye of a hurricane. But don't mistake that silence for inactivity. Because as ARMY knows better than anyone, when Jungkook goes quiet, he's planning something massive. As America watches, listens, and marvels, one thing is certain. This has never happened before. Before the headlines screamed, Jungkook just made history in the US, before the Spotify records, before the Billboard milestones, there was silence. A silence that was strategic, powerful, and deliberate. But the real story behind Jungkook's triumph on American soil doesn't begin in 2025. It started long before. It began in the quiet moments after BTS announced their temporary group hiatus. It began in a moment where many artists would have faded. But instead, Jungkook evolved. How did he go from global pop star to solo history maker? The answer lies in a transformation that most fans didn't fully grasp at the time, but one that now seems inevitable. Let's go back to 2023. The world was watching closely as BTS members began their individual paths, preparing for military service and solo activities. And while each member had a unique approach, Jungkook was quietly preparing a storm. He didn't rush. He didn't drop an album for the sake of it. Instead, he studied, observed, waited. Then, like a lightning bolt in the summer sky, Seven was released in July 2023. And just like that, everything changed. The song debuted at #1 on both the Billboard Global 200 and Billboard Hot 100, instantly becoming the most streamed debut by a Korean soloist in US history. Fans screamed. Critics gasped. The industry? It took notes. But what was it about Seven that made it so powerful? It wasn't just the catchy melody or the feature from American rapper Latto. It wasn't the sultry lyrics or even the visually hypnotic music video. It was Jungkook himself, raw, grown, and finally standing completely on his own. For the first time, the world saw not the magne of BTS, but Jungkook the artist. And he wasn't mimicking American pop, he was mastering it. That was the beginning. Soon after, he followed up with 3D featuring Jack Harlow, another crossover hit that blended funk, R&B, and pop in a way that was unmistakably Western, yet uniquely Jungkook. He wasn't trying to fit into the US market, he was bending it around himself. Music executives whispered, "This kid gets it." Playlists were flooded. TikTok trends erupted. Even casual listeners who had once dismissed K-pop began asking, "Wait, who is this guy?" But Jungkook wasn't satisfied with singles. He had bigger ambitions, and in November 2023, he dropped his first solo album, Golden. And it didn't just chart, it exploded. Debuting at #2 on the Billboard 200, it became the highest charting solo debut by a Korean male artist in US history. Once again, the phrase kept repeating across networks and blogs. History made. And yet, something curious happened. Just a month later, he enlisted an "Oh Farewell" concert. No drawn-out press tour. No tiri goodbyes. He left quietly, leaving behind a legacy that was barely starting to breathe. Many assumed the hype would fade. After all, military enlistment has historically caused momentum drops for many Korean stars, but Jungkook was different. Even while serving in the shadows, his music continued to rise. Seven didn't vanish, it grew. Golden didn't decline, it solidified. Fans across America continued streaming, making TikToks, creating fan edits, writing tributes. Why? Because the music wasn't tied to a moment, it was tied to a feeling. A connection. By the time June 2025 arrived, something remarkable had happened. Jungkook's presence had never really disappeared. His face wasn't on TV, but his voice was in everyone's ears. His name wasn't in headlines, but his songs never left the charts. And that's why the shock of his historic US chart moment felt less like a comeback and more like a resurrection of something that never truly died. Fans weren't just celebrating his return. They were validating everything they already believe. He was the future. What does all of this tell us? It tells us that Jungkook's rise wasn't accidental. It was intentional. It was calculated. And most of all, it was earned. While others rushed out solo material to fill the space left by BTS's pause, Jungkook waited. He built something worth waiting for. He trusted his instincts, his voice, and most importantly, his audience. Because here's the truth that many still miss. Jungkook didn't rise to power because of BTS's shadow. He rose by stepping out of it. And now, as he claims milestones no Asian soloist ever has, we can finally understand what was happening all along. He wasn't just releasing songs, he was writing his own legend. So how powerful is a voice that transcends borders, languages, and even time? How unstoppable must one artist be to chart with a song over a year old and beat current industry giants doing global promotions? The answer lies in the numbers. Cold, undeniable numbers. And in the case of Jungkook's US comeback, Those numbers don't just speak. They screamed, let's start with Spotify, the most influential streaming platform in the world. Just 48 hours after his military discharge, Jungkook's 7 Feet Lato exploded back into the Spotify US Top 10, peaking at positions many Western artists only dream of reaching. To many, this seemed impossible. The song had been out since July 2023. The promotional push was long over. Yet here it was, sitting right beside chart toppers from Drake, Billie Eilish, and Olivia Rodrigo. Then came the shocker. On June 16, 2025, 7 reclaimed the #1 position on Spotify US Daily Top Songs chart, pushing past current new releases and even viral hits. But why was this so extraordinary? Because never before had an Asian soloist done this without any active promotion, without a label-pushed campaign, without even a live performance to support IT. IT was raw fan power. It was emotional reactivation. The day Jungkook was discharged, streams surged, not just for 7, but for every track from his solo album Golden. And within 72 hours, over 18 million streams came from the US alone. That's more than some Grammy winners do in a full release week. But Spotify was just the beginning. Over on Billboard, the numbers painted a picture of history being rewritten. Analysts began to notice. 7 wasn't just trending, it was re-entering charts where no returning track usually survives. And in what Billboard called a monumental re-entry, Jungkook became the first Asian male solo artist to return to the Hot 100 with a year-old song solely from organic fan activity. Let's say that again. No remix, no new video, no repackaged album, just ARMY and impact. And if that wasn't enough to raise eyebrows, Billboard's Global Excl US chart quietly released a jaw-dropping confirmation. Jungkook had now spent 100 consecutive weeks on the chart. That's nearly 2 full years with consistent global relevance. This had never been done before, not by a Korean soloist, not by a Japanese artist, not even by the biggest stars from China or Southeast Asia. He was now a global outlier. An artist who didn't just break into Western markets, he led them to Let's Talk Stats. 7 has now crossed 1.8 billion streams on Spotify, putting it among the top 20 most streamed songs by a solo male artist ever. His album Golden reached platinum status in the US, marking another first for a Korean male solo debut. Jungkook is currently the most followed Korean soloist on Spotify, with monthly listeners peaking at over 37 million, higher than several US top 40 staples. What does all of this mean? It means we are no longer witnessing a K-pop invasion. That phrase is outdated. This is cultural leadership. Jungkook isn't entering Western spaces as a guest. He's setting the terms. His sound, his aesthetic, his strategy are now studied by marketing teams across LA, London, and New York. One executive from a major US label anonymously admitted, he's doing in silence what we pay millions for, and he's winning. Even more staggering, the fact that his streaming performance wasn't just US-centered. While 7 dominated American charts, Latin America, Europe, and parts of Africa saw simultaneous spikes in play counts. This wasn't a regional phenomenon. This was a global recalibration. You might ask, how is that possible? How can one artist, with no ongoing press tour, no TikTok challenge, no new drop, suddenly reclaim the throne of US streaming platforms? Here's the emotional truth. People never stopped missing him. From the moment he went into the military, something was missing in the global pop landscape. His tone, his clarity, that magnetic ability to make even simple lyrics sound like soul-splitting poetry. Fans didn't move on, they waited. And when he came back, they responded in the most powerful way, with data. There is a silent revolution happening in the music industry, and Jungkook is leading it. One where connection beats promotion. One where resonance outweighs radio deals. One where an Asian soloist doesn't ask for a seat at the table, but instead builds his own stadium. AS numbers continue to roll in. One thing has become undeniably clear. Jungkook has not only returned. He has taken over. If what Jungkook has already done with zero promotion was enough to shake the US music charts to their core, then the question becomes terrifyingly exciting. What happens when he finally steps back on stage? Because now, all eyes are on one single question that's spreading like wildfire across fan pages, newsrooms, and even backstage among US artists. Is Jungkook about to make a surprise live performance in America? And the answer might just be why it began with whispers. An unverified photo. A studio door slightly ajar. A familiar silhouette in a Los Angeles recording building. Nothing official, nothing confirmed, but enough to ignite a storm across social media. Within hours, Jungkook in LA became a trending phrase in over 20 countries. The city had barely blinked, and yet armies around the world already knew something was coming. And now, multiple credible sources are suggesting that Jungkook could be preparing for an unexpected on-stage return at a major upcoming US awards show, or possibly even a private stage guerrilla performance unlike anything we've seen from a K-pop soloist. But why this secrecy? Because this is Jungkook. And if you've been following his journey, you know, he doesn't announce. He appears. That's how Seven dropped. That's how his entire Golden Album campaign ran. He doesn't chase the moment, he creates it. And now, it seems the stage is being built once again. Several LA-based insiders claim Jungkook has already been in contact with producers from two of the biggest American live broadcasts, the BET Awards and the MTV VMAs. What's strange, though, is that neither show has listed him as a performer. Nothing is confirmed. Not a poster. Not a teaser. Not a leak. Yet studio rehearsals in Burbank are reportedly being blocked off for an undisclosed international artist known only by code name JG. Coincidence? Or is the king of silent impact ready to strike again? But here's where it gets even more intriguing. I end the week following his chart resurgence. HYB America filed a new set of trademarks and visual copyrights connected to JK. Stajezero. The documents, made public by legal databases, describe it as a hybrid live-immersive performance project designed for multi-platform broadcast. Translation? A stage show. A big one. Possibly virtual. Possibly live. And possibly happening within days. And armies aren't the only ones paying attention. Several American artists, many of whom Jungkook quietly collaborated with on Golden, have suddenly gone silent on social media. Latto? Radio silence. Jack Harlow? Just reposted a photo from last summer with Jungkook and captioned it with a cryptic clock emoji. Benny Blanco? Liked multiple fan posts theorizing about a Jungkook US return. This can't all be coincidence. Something is brewing. Even veteran journalists from Rolling Stone and Variety have joined the speculation game, with one writing, if Jungkook pulls this off, he won't just be the first Asian soloist to top charts without promotion. He'll be the first to own a Western stage on his own terms, with no announcement, and still dominate. But why now? Because timing is everything. Jungkook's reappearance isn't random. It's surgical. The US industry is entering a summer lull. Big names are between album cycles. Major festivals are losing momentum. Audiences are craving something new. And Jungkook? He's always been the master of entering when the silence is loudest, but this goes beyond shock value. What makes this different, what makes this historic, is not just the potential performance. It's the statement it sends. That a Korean artist doesn't need to beg for a Western stage. That a K-pop icon can disappear for military duty, come back with no campaign, and still take over. He's not returning to remind America of who he is. He's returning to show them who he's become, and with each passing hour, the clues stack higher. Spotify banners showing vague black and gold symbols appearing in New York's Times Square. TikTok influencers reporting they've been invited to a mystery listening experience. Jungkook's Instagram going dark, then suddenly reactivated with only a single story, a pair of worn sneakers and a mic stand under the caption, "Zero starts now." So, is a surprise performance about to happen? All signs say yes. And if it does, it won't just be a performance. It will be a cultural earthquake.